So now,
should I go first?
Yeah, please, sir.
Thank you. My name is Danoye O, Laguda.
Yeah.
And I will be talking actually about the title of my work is Decolonizing Spirituality, the case of Yoruba Religion and Spirituality. This is my face. I may have to remove it so that I will concentrate on the voice. Thank you. Now, with regards to the issue at hand, we want to decolonize terminologies. And in decolonizing terminologies in African traditional religion, especially in Yoruba religion that I practice and also teach, I want to start by saying that it is very important and very necessary that we do this. It's long overdue. And like the moderator have said, of course, the effort has been there for time immemorial. Now, that is why I will always say that the category that we refer to traditional religion, whether Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, the Shona people, all over Africa, the Gokuyus of Kenya and the rest of them, has been described as indigenous people of African people. But then the colonial masters, as agent of, and with their missionaries as agent of colonization, brought the religion under their colonial power to convert Africans to their religion. In the process, our people were converted, especially to Christianity. And then they deploy every means, method, styles to achieve this objective. So the primary method they deploy was to demonize African spirituality, cosmology, and theology by introducing some terminologies. And these terminologies are so many that sometimes you start to wonder if it can this easily represent our religion. Issue of paganism, nativity, tribalism, archaic, savage, primitive. All these are, of course, issue of demarketing the traditional religion of the people in order to sell their own. But before we go further, we must accept certain facts. And fundamentally, the first one is that we have problems, we have challenges, especially talking about an homogeneous traditional religion for the whole of African people. It's very difficult. The moderator mentioned the issue of language, which I think is very strategic. And that is more importantly why we need to be here in this meeting room. So, but there are also other problems, even when you want to genuinely get involved in African traditional religion for scholastic reasons. The issue of the geographical location of Africa, the life size of Africa, the issue of indoctrination, lack of written records, scriptures, reality of death, and problem of secrecy. But then all these problems, for me, are turmoil. Some of them are real, and some of them are just excuses in order to accept the fact that they have colonized our religion and our knowledge system, which, of course, is the meaning of our spirituality. So I don't want to dwell too much on what the colonial master did to our religion, but then I would like to talk about the religion itself. So what I did was to try and define Yoruba religion as well as Yoruba spirituality. Now, I look at what the colonial master did by looking at what Talbot, P.A. Talbot said when it was submitted that the religion of the inhabitant of southern province of Nigeria, that is talking about Yoruba people, will appear to be composed of four main elements, viz. Polytheism, anthropomorphism, animism, and ancestors worship. Well, I agree. Talbot may be correct that there are some elements of anthropomorphism, polytheism, especially talking about the pantheon of deities, Awon-Orisha, and animism, and veneration of the ancestors. There's no running away from it. But it is not in the way he has conceived it or tried to push it forward as a person that was a scholar in the colonial period. So, but then, to go further, like I said, before we start doing all these things, we see a response by a post-colonial scholar, Abioye, for example, who came up and said that, yes, when you talk of religion globally, you cannot be thinking of religion and saying that all religion can be the same. And to him, he said, no human face are exactly the same as another face. But it is like many others in having two eyes, a nose, two lips, two ears, and in the same way, no two people ever respond to God's presence in exactly the same way. Therefore, the Yoruba people have a right to respond to God in the way they know, which is what they don't want to accept. So, if the colonial masters have done this kind of damage, what of the post-colonial masters who are more importantly Africans, Yorubas, Igbos, Shona, and Dembele, Tozan, and the rest of them? But then you find, this is where you find scholarship of John Mbiti, Awolalu, Bolaji Idowu, Mbiti, Ekpega, Erivo, very, very appalling. But then you will not blame them too much. They were trying to push the frontier of their colonial masters who has already converted them into Christianity. So looking at African traditional look them to the post-colonial scholars was about interpreting Yoruba religion, for example, from the understanding of their new religion, Christianity or Islam or Hinduism, as the case may be. So it will be very necessary here to now say that, yes, can we look at this all over again? And what I did was to look at the issue of talking about the structure of African religion. And I'm sure you, all of us here, almost all of us here should remember the 5 categories, the pyramid built by Bolaji Idowu, accepted by John Mbiti, and many others African post-colonial scholars, when they say the religion of African people comprises of 5 major issues: believe in God, believe in divinities, believe in ancestors, believe in magic and medicine, and also believe in spirits. So I responded to that and said, yes, all these are some aspects of our religion, but it's not the totality of the religion. So I felt that, yes, we have primordial Orisha. I agree. We have identified Orisha. We have adopted Orisha. And at the same time, we have other parts, other things that makes us have a belief. But for example, the issue of belief in morality, belief in authority, belief in our culture, belief in our traditions that are not included in the structure. But then the excuse has always been that, okay, the major religions are the major elements are the 5, and they have minor as well, which is where they now put morality and the rest of them. They assume that they are subsumed. So in this work, I have considered the work of Ellis, the post-colonial scholar, and also the work of Emil Ludwig, the work of Ludwig, Ellis, and the Frobenius. And all of them, the conclusion is that Africans don't believe in God. And even if we believe in God, the God was introduced to us by the missionaries. I don't agree with that. And this is where we can now start to marry the issue of post-colonial scholarship with post-colonial scholarship, and we can start talking about modern scholarship in Yoruba traditional religion. The Professor Williams will bear me witness that one of us, a scholar, especially Professor Abimbola of Howard University, said Olodumare is not in Yoruba religion. And I disagree. I said, no. How can we say Olodumare? The moment you deny the primal cause of everything, definitely you are saying there's no Yoruba religion. So in this paper, I try to do a breakdown of what is known as Olodumare. And I try to look at it from the syllables. From Olodumare, I talk of Olo, Odu, Mari, and Ari. Now, the first one is about ownership, Olong, Oninkan, the way we talk about Olong, Olong, Elemi, Eleda, talking about that. And then we talk of Odu. If you remember the popular Odu Ayofa, Okmayu, that we normally play. In this, we talk about Odu. The 12 cells are the Odu. And one of the things we say there is that Odu Retikun, Olodu Tokun. And then you see, if you have a full cell, you have an advantage to do other things. So apart from seeing God as the owner of something, we also see God as something that is full. It's at its fullest. It's not something that will improve. It's not something that will diminish. It's something that is constant. And then we talk of marriage. Yoruba, I don't know how many of us are Yoruba, but then I know that Yoruba popular aphorism is that which means God is immortal. We have come to the world, we'll die, and then we'll go, but then some other people will take over from us and they will continue. So talking about the immortality of God. And we talk about the array, the one that the Kabiyesi knows very well, that is in front of his beaded crown of Yoruba kings, which talk about the scepter of authority, the authority of the king. And that is directly from Olodumare. And that is something that shows that as God has as God has power over everything, our kings, Kabiyesi, also have power over their domain, and it's 100%. So in summary, I am saying that even if the colonial scholars said we don't know God, and the post-colonial scholars said, no, we know God, but they try to interpret God from within the religion they have converted into, it is going to be a very, very sad experience or thinking for us to now say, even in post-colonial, even in modern scholarship, to say that Yoruba people do not believe in Olodumare because Olodumare was imposed by the colonial masters. So I disagree with that completely. And this is where I now say that, look, we need to start to think of changing the terminologies, reconstructing what we mean by African traditional religion or Yoruba traditional religion. For that reason, I have tried my best to start by trying to create a new terminology. Instead of saying Yoruba traditional religion, we start talking about Yoruba indigenous religion and spirituality. And to do this, I know there have been various efforts to decolonize the spirituality of Yoruba traditional religion. But the post-colonial scholars previously mentioned in these studies have made spiritual efforts to remove colonial impositions on YRS. But their efforts are often biased and often reflect their loyalty to their new religion, especially Christianity. So for the colonial scholarship on YIRS, the fact of demonizing our religion as evil has never changed. So the main reason is not difficult. It's the issue of marketing, trying to market one religion at the expense of demonizing the other. So for me, I think it's important that we have to decolonize spirituality in Yoruba indigenous religion and spirituality. So we can continue to argue here and there, but my own thinking is that, for example, I agree with Bolaji Idowu, Adeluma Dokwamu, and John Awoladu that for what they have done in trying to bring forth the Yoruba traditional religion. However, their effort falls short of the expectation of adherents of YRLs, especially the Yoruba in diaspora. In Lagos, Nigeria, the activities of Ijo Orunmila Ato and Ijo Orunmila Adulawo are critical example of attempt to sustain the theology of Yoruba indigenous religion and spirituality by dressing it in Christian theology and practices. And they are still there. I mean, the Orunmila Ato is at number 2 Freeman Street, Ebute Metta, Lagos. We attend their services. It's patterned after Christian religion, and then there's no difference except that they will read their first lesson in Odufa and also Bori. They will all bring kola nuts to do Ibori at the end of the service. So these are just wearing a new garb, okay, for Christianity, and in the effort to call it Yoruba religion. But then I am taking it further that it is very important for us to do this redefinition and in order to remove the imposed belief of the colonial and post-colonial scholars and allow for a clearer understanding of the belief system by all adherents of IRS. So our attempt to define should be critically examined. We need to critically examine the concept of the Olodumare and place it in proper perspective. Balaji Idowu 79 attempted this and concluded that the religion is monotheistic. There is one God, but it is diffused. Scholars as Ofusia also reject this classification for Olodumare as conceived and worshipped by the Yoruba as diffuse monotheism. Ofusia actually advances classical example from global metaphysics to debunk Idowu's claim. According to Ofusia, monotheism is the most recent among various concepts of God. He references Aristotle's assertion that there is only one God, but describes his doctrine as deism rather than monotheism. Toyin Falola in 2025 raised the question of empiricism, that the debate, he doesn't want to dwell on the debate of one God, but then he wants to talk about Yoruba religion and understanding of Olodumare. That look, this is no debate that African Yoruba people believe in Olodumare. I quote him now. The Yoruba have a deep-seated belief in supernatural power that governs the universe, whom they call Olodumare. However, this cosmic being cannot be worshipped as done with Allah or Christian God. They do not think that Olodumare can be adequately described in words. It's too complex and magnificent focus of human devotion. It is rare to come across temples specifically dedicated to the veneration of Olodumare, and neither is there allotted time for the worship. Olodumare does not exist in human form. Olodumare is commonly perceived as a universal energy accessible to all, regardless of whether. So the issue of asking us for empirical evidence of Olodumare, it cannot be sustained, because even the lack of evidence does not mean that something does not exist. So that is for me. So, and about John Bewaji, of course, is a guy that believes in the reality of Olodumare and the religion. So I try to draw a very big conclusion. It's a very wide one. And what I'm saying here is very simple. Now, look, we cannot run away for decolonizing the indigenous religion of our people. And like the moderator said, it is the language we need to tackle first. And the first language, of course, is the name of God. Of course, is the name of the days, is the name of we call our people, is the name we answer. If somebody say that I don't believe in Olodumare, and I ask the person, why do you now use Olodumare in the Yoruba Bible? Why do you use Olodumare, Olorun, Eleda, Elemi in the translation of the Muslim Quran, in the transliteration of Muslim Quran? So these are the kind of things. So for me, this paper, I'm going to make the soft copy of this paper available to Panagraphs after this, and then let it be shared so that people can respond. Because this is my thought. These are my thoughts when I was given the responsibility and say that I'm going to present in this particular thing. So for me, we need to start to change approach. We need to start to change approach in the way we study. It's not just talking about religion, it's also talking about spirituality. And whenever we use this term, religion, spirituality, we should be afraid of the Western connotation of what they mean. We should rather be thinking of what they mean to us as Africans and as Yoruba people. And this is why I say that we cannot do this by just reading books. We have to do it by meeting the practitioners, by going into their temples to understand them, read their scriptures, interpret their scriptures, and then do it only within the framework of their belief system, so that we don't create problems by decolonizing. And by decolonizing, we are also creating another colonization. And that was why I started with the Professor Wande Abibola's thinking that the Yoruba people do not have a concept of Olodumare. I want to thank you very much, moderator. And I want to thank Panagraph, and then I wait for reaction. Thank you.